Thank you. Let me launch right into it. Back in November, a few days after the election, I published an article, and I want to read you just the first 3 paragraphs of what I wrote. US President-elect Barack Obama's election victory has revived hopes that stalled Palestinian-Israeli peace negotiations could finally lead to a two-state solution. Few new presidents have been greeted with such optimism and associated high expectations. However, the chances for progress depend on more than a new American president. There are several interrelated factors: US engagement, the availability of a viable peace agreement, Israeli and Palestinian internal politics, and the broader international situation. An examination of these factors indicates that the optimism is unjustified and that President Obama will not be more successful in bringing about a two-state solution to the conflict. This does not, however, mean that the situation will remain static or that those pursuing a just peace have no recourse for action. That's what I wrote in November, and I see no reason to revise that assessment. Indeed, pretty much everything I wrote in the rest of the article seems to have come about pretty much exactly as expected. I don't have a crystal ball, and I cannot see the future, but I can see the present, and I can analyze the trends of where things are going. And it is, I think, a delusion to expect that President Obama is going to do anything different than what he's doing. One of the strange things is that before, during, and after his election campaign, you have many people saying, well, we don't really know what his positions are, and we have to wait and see, and, you know, it's still very early, and let's not jump to conclusions. This is not true. Obama laid out his positions very, very clearly on several occasions, and I compiled some of the positions he expressed prior to the election. And these come from his 2 speeches to AIPAC, as well as other public statements he made that are all well documented. He supported the Israeli bombing of Lebanon of 2006, supported Israel's September 2007 attack on Syria, opposed the holding of Palestinian elections, including Hamas, opposed the February 2007 Mecca Agreement establishing a national unity government between Hamas and Fatah, supports the continued isolation of Hamas, stated, "I will always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself in the United Nations and around the world," promised at least $30 billion of military aid to Israel over the next decade, and pledged to give Israel access to weapon systems that are reserved usually for NATO members. Pledged the US should never seek to dictate what is best for the Israelis and their security interests. And no Israeli Prime Minister should ever feel dragged to or blocked from the negotiating table by the United States. Stated, Jerusalem will remain the capital of Israel and it must remain undivided. Opposes Palestinian refugees' right of return. He said, I quote, "The right of return to Israel is something that is not an option in a literal sense." Stated, any agreement with the Palestinian people must preserve Israel's identity as a Jewish state. Supported the Bush administration's approach of forming an alliance of so-called moderate Arab dictatorships on one side with Israel, arrayed against Iran, Syria, Hezbollah, and Hamas. And this goes on for some time, I will spare you. Get the point. What I also wrote is that what's remarkable about Obama's positions is how consistent they are with the mainstream pro-Israel consensus in this country. And nothing we have seen since he became president has changed that assessment. We've seen, without going into the detail, the complete cave-in on settlements, which is reminiscent of the episode when President Bush told Sharon back in April 2002 to withdraw from Palestinian cities immediately, and Israel just ignored him. And exactly the same has happened with Obama. And all the hopes of a new US president suddenly materializing and putting pressure on Israel have been dashed. I'm saying this because it's important that you not listen to those who keep telling you that we just need to wait and see, give him a little longer, let's see, maybe in a second term he'll be free of the need to worry about re-election. I don't want to use impolite words for this kind of reasoning which the Palestinians have heard decade after decade. It is not early days. This so-called peace process has been going on for 2 decades. Gaza is a concentration camp. It is not early days in Gaza, and people cannot wait in Gaza for Barack Obama to get his act together, and we cannot wait.